Shalom Israel. Before I start, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Bahara Kadash, double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel, and Reuben Titro, to the Akims and the Ivers and Bibles and those pushing videos in truth and sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in truth. Now, I was going through the YouTube and I came across this video here, and what made me start to watch it, obviously, I didn't watch all of it. I watched up to the part I'm going to play now, but what made me watch it, it says Bible questions and answers. So I just wanted to see how he would answer the questions that were asked. And, I suspected he answered the question, but no Bible verses were used to answer any of the questions. But he made a statement in his video, in this video here, which I want to address slightly. And when you look at the channel, you see that the comments are turned off, and I'm sure if he did turn them on, there would have been a lot to say. But I'm going to quickly play this little clip here and then touch on something.
Christians are basically the ones who have changed the world. Wherever you have had Christianity for centuries, you have the most advanced societies providing the most care for people. It was Christians who developed nursing, hospitals, and all of that basically had its roots.
And you have to realize that, no one actually looked after the sick until Christians came around. Yeah, right.
In the transformation the gospel made in people's lives that caused them to reach out to care for people. If you go back in history to primitive cultures, they were happy to behead each other and kill each other. Christians changed the character of the world wherever they have gone. And that's the way it absolutely should be.
And that's the bit I want to touch on. It talks about, when you go back to primitive culture, they were happy to behead each other, so on and so forth. But Christianity changed the culture of the world. So I just want to have a look at some of what Christianity did, the bits that he actually forgot. Now, this is called, what is this called? It just says slavery. Just going to touch a little bit on this. It says early Christianity and slavery here. So it says, in pre-Christian times and in non-Christian countries, people expressed doubts about slavery and sought to improve a lot of slaves. The Stoic philosophers provided a notable example. In pagan times, slaves who escaped and sought sanctuary, the holy temple, would not be returned to their masters if they had a justifiable complaint. It says, when the empire became Christian, escaped slaves could seek refuge in a church, but they would always be returned to their masters, whether they had a justifiable complaint or not. When Christian slaves in the early Asian church suggested that community funds might be used to purchase their freedom, they were soon disabused of their hopes. A line supported by one of the greatest church fathers, Ignatius of Antioch, he declared that their ambition should be to become better slaves. So this is the bit of the Christianity that he actually left out, when he was talking about those who were savages, for want of a better word. I forgot the term he used, but he forgot these bits. It says, and they should not expect the church to gain their liberty for them. His orthodox approach followed the words of St. Paul. Each one should remain in the situation which he was in when the Most High called him. Were you a slave when you were called? Don't let it trouble you. Although if you can gain your freedom, do so. Now it goes on. It says, when the Roman Empire became, because remember, he was talking about how Christianity changed the world and basically, in short terms, made it a better place by what they were doing. They were fixing savages. Actually, let me play back what he actually said. Give me a second. Start from here.
And if you go back in history, you will find that Christianity has done that. Christians are basically the ones who have changed the world. Wherever you have had Christianity for centuries, you have the most advanced societies providing the most care for people.
Now, if you call slavery care, because a lot of these slave owners were Christians, then I could probably agree with that.
It was Christians who developed nursing.
Yeah, because when they killed their slave, they had to bring them back to life.
Hospitals. All of that basically had its roots in the transformation the gospel made in people's lives that caused them to reach out to care for people. If you go back in history to
and you said the gospel, before I continue, let's quickly see, because this is another thing, like the gospel has been opened out to all. But let's see who the gospel is actually for. This is verse 61. It says, Isaiah 61:1, it says, the Spirit of the Lord power is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings, yeah, that's the gospel, unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our power, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. So this is who the gospel is for. Those that mourn in Zion, give unto them, yeah, those that mourn in Zion, beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Why is that spirit of heaviness? Because they're captives, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. So is there talking about the gospel? The gospel, when you read the scriptures, is for those that mourn in Zion. Let me quickly drop this back a bit. Okay.
All of that basically had its roots in the transformation the gospel made in people's lives that caused them to reach out to care for people.
Like Christian gospel is all literally for Edomites. It's not for anyone else.
If you go back in history to primitive cultures, they were happy to behead each other and kill each other. Christians changed the character of the world wherever they have gone.
That's what I wanted, the primitive cultures. So this is what Christianity did to primitive cultures. It says here, when the Roman Empire became Christians under Emperor Constantine, the institution of slavery remained unaltered, except for superficial changes. For example, ceremonies of manumission were transferred from temples to Christian churches, and places of sanctuary were restricted to Christian sites. Church fathers instructed the faithful not to let slaves get above themselves, and the church endorsed St. Augustine's view that slavery was ordained by the Most High as a punishment for sin. Augustine called on the free to give thanks because Christ, the Mashiach, and his church did not make slaves free. Now, when you look at the Bible, you had certain main captivities that the Israelites went through. You had the Egyptian, the Assyrian, Babylonian, the Medo-Persian, the Greeks, and the Romans. So the Mashiach himself, Yahweh Shai himself, was in captivity when he walked the earth. It says Augustine called on the free to give thanks because the Mashiach and his church did not make slaves free. He was a slave himself, but rather made bad slaves into good slaves. Yeah, this is the idea of Christianity, making bad slaves into good slaves. St. Augustine teaching that the institution of slavery derives from the Most High and is beneficial to both slaves and masters would be cited by many later popes as evidence, indeed proof, of the acceptability of slavery. It was an integral part of the Christian tradition, one of the main sources of authority in the church. So he forgot this bit, when he was talking about those who, I keep forgetting the word he used, primitive, yeah, the primitive ones. It says, in 62 AD, a church council at Gangra in Asia Minor excommunicated anyone encouraging a slave to despise his master or to withdraw from his service. This would in time be incorporated into church law. Yeah, this is what Christianity did. Yeah? But they were the ones that were helping the primitive, where it would remain from the 13th to the 20th century. Now look at that. What are we in? We're in the 21st century. So this weren't even that long abolished. Soon the church would become the largest slave owner in the Roman Empire. And what was Mashiach under? He was under captivity under the Romans. Says bishops themselves owned slaves and accepted the usual conventions. So did other churchmen. Slave collars dating from around AD 500 have been found in Sardinia, stamped with the sign of the cross. Yes, slave collars. So this is how Christianity helped the primitive. One mentions the name Felix the Archdeacon. I'm a slave of Felix the Archdeacon. Own me, lest I run away. Some 400 collars or slave pendants survive from antiquity, almost all of them from the 4th century, from Rome, yeah, Africa and Sardinia. Many of the collars feature Christian symbols such as the Chirio, Christogram, or a Christian cross, showing that the slave owners were Christians. Yeah. So these were so-called non-barbarians, non-primitive people, I should say, who were civilizing and helping the primitive. We know of other slave-owning Christians in various ways. For example, one, Asunius, recorded having tattooed his recaptured runaway slave on the forehead. The significance seems to have been guilt about tattooing, because tattooing was banned by the Bible. So there's more to this, but it says slave in medieval Christendom. But, I just wanted to touch a bit of that, and then there's another one here. It says slavery in Christian America. So with all his talk about how great Christianity was, these are the bits he forgot. It says, scattered across the southern states of America are the remains of breathtaking estates, monuments to a powerful and genteel society that fed on the blood and tears of a slave class. It was on plantations like Oak Alley in Louisiana that African American slaves enjoyed a system of brutality, and cruelty that's barely comprehensible, to support a degree of luxury some consider to be their birthright. So this was done by Christians, the ones he said, went round helping people and all the rest he said. So silly, I can't remember what he said. It's just gone through one ears and out the other. So slavery was a foundation of American wealth, especially in the South, and the prosperity of these regions was closely linked to mass market cash crops like sugarcane, cotton, and tobacco, but these were extremely labor intensive. Slavery enabled the settlers to harvest the wealth of their new nation, and because we were the workforce and still are to this day. And all it took was a tweaking of their conscience, and some twisting of their Christians' belief. So you can see that his conscience was tweaked by the madness that spewed out of his mouth. Let me try to find that again.
It was Christians who developed nursing, hospitals, and all of that basically had its roots in the transformation the gospel made in people's lives that caused them to reach out to care for people.
And this is caring for people. Where is it? It was on plantation like Oak Alley in Louisiana that African American slaves enjoyed a system of brutality, care, and cruelty, care, that's barely comprehensible to support a degree of luxury some consider to be their birthright. So that's the care that Christians gave out throughout the ages, as you mentioned. It's true that Christianity was used as a weapon to justify the enslavement of African people. Christianity over the centuries has been used by many people to justify acts that are very unchristian. There's another bit in this, just wanted to read, then I'll leave off. It says, so enslaved people heard a lot of sermons about slaves be obedient to your masters, which is something they used to read a lot. But they also heard the stories about Moses leading people to freedom, and they loved those stories. And they internalized those stories, and they were certain that that would eventually be their story, which it will be. Yahushua will be our Moses. That there would be a Moses who would lead them to freedom. That Yahushua would not let them suffer forever. And that's true. And we can see with the things that's happening now that You know, the hand of that happening is being put in motion. That basis within Christianity for seeing every person as a child of the Most High, as made in the image and likeness of the Most High, was certainly a lesson that was extremely important for the slaves to repeat among themselves. So secretly reading the Bible confirmed what they'd suspected. Slavery was wrong. The Most High was a power of justice who would judge their white oppressors. And nothing hasn't changed. You know, this is Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. It says, "Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." So, as you were saying, how they brought such good to people around the world, that was brought through slavery. You know, what he totally left out. It says slavery in Christian America. Yeah, and the Bible says, "Whatsoever a man sow, shall he also reap." It says early Christianity and slavery. Yeah, so Christianity was strong in slavery. A lot of the slave owners deemed themselves Christians. It says Galatians 6 and 7, "Be not deceived." Yeah, the Most High is not mocked, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. And it continues in the New Testament further in Revelation 13 and 9. "If any man have an ear, let him hear." These are things that you won't hear read. Yeah, it says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity." Now, when you look at that word, so the state of being kept in a prison, yeah, such as the state of being kept in a place such as a prison or a cage and not being able to leave or be free, just like we are not able to leave or be free. The state or condition of being captive. And what did the gospel say? It says, he has sent me to bind, Isaiah 61 and 1. Halfway down, it says, "He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted." Actually, we'll read it from the top. "The Spirit of the Lord power is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings, the good news, the gospel, unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives." And we are those captives. When you read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 48, it lets you know that the Most High is going to send our enemies against us, and we'll have to serve them in want of all things. These are captives. And the opening of the prison to them that are bound. And our people today continually fill up the prison houses. Yeah. So that gospel is for us. It says to verse 3, "To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion." That's who the gospel is for. To them that mourn in Zion. Why they're mourning? They're brokenhearted. They're captives. Yeah. They're bound in prison. So Revelation 13 and 9 again, it says, "If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." And this is what the saints are patiently waiting for. Yeah. This is the last one. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land." Because we're currently scattered. We've been kicked out of the land for sin. "And the strangers, these other nations, shall be joined with them." Yeah. "And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob." Just like how we have to cleave for them for everything, they will be cleaving to us for everything. "And the people shall take them," the Israelites, "shall take the strangers and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord, in the kingdom of heaven, for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives," yeah, whose captives they were, "and they shall rule over their oppressors." And that goes back to, see if I can quickly find it, what this brother said here. Yeah, secretly read Simon Smart, secretly reading the Bible confirmed what they suspected. Slavery was wrong, but this is the bit. "And the Most High was a power of justice who would judge their white oppressors." And that's what we're reading in the scriptures. You know, "They shall take them captives," yeah, whose captive they were, "and they shall rule over their oppressors." So, like he said, you know, he forgot those bits. Just to play this one more time. and end up. And we can hear the madness he was spewing. And that's why the comments are turned off. Because if the comments were on, could imagine the type of things that would be pulling out.
Basically, the ones who have changed the world. Wherever you have had Christianity for centuries, you have the most advanced societies providing the most care for people. It was Christians who developed nursing, hospitals, and all of that basically had its roots in the transformation the gospel made in people's lives that caused them to reach out to care for people. If you go back in history to primitive cultures, they were happy to behead each other and kill.
And what do you call primitive cultures?
Each other. Christians change the character of the world wherever they have gone. And that's the way it absolutely should be.
Yeah, so with that, we're going to close out and give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Kadash, Allah.